with young students. Yeah, but gradually what happens? They forget about them. Life goes on. Now, this morning, what we will do, we'll just try to refresh what have we learned in the previous session on group behavior. This is one of the toughest topics in organizational behavior because we have two major responsibilities as we are learning this subject. Number one, you are part of a group, therefore you are maneuvering through. You would learn to survive through the group behavior, especially when you're part of a departmental committee, departmental team, you have these challenges. Not only that, as you grow to the next levels, you will be part of some committees, you'll be part of some councils, so you'll be part of board meetings, board groups. That's much politically sensitive groups at the higher levels. All vice presidents or sometimes all shareholders. You may be ex officio member of a board meeting. You're representing on behalf of all the management and the employees. So these are all extremely dynamic groups. Virtually every one of them, every type of, let us say you call it committee or shop council or joint management council. These are all the names given for various types of groups in the workplace. And then what you call the um, committees, departmental level committees, then plant level committees, they are called plant level councils, and then the board level. So there are at least four levels of representation of the management and this employees. Each of these levels you can find a group, and then you are going to be part of those groups. It's going to be extremely challenging because you're called to be part of a group because you're a very talented person and resourceful. You can contribute to problem solving and decision making. So therefore, how to survive those groups is it's going to be tough time. And there is a wonderful book, I forgot the author's name, years ago I read, called Team Traps. Team Traps. Once you're into a team, you're trapped. So how do you maneuver through? How do you survive through those traps? How do you slowly get over of those traps? So that's what major responsibility as a management student in the hospital context. In fact, hospitals are full of groups we talked about yesterday. And then second responsibility that is much more difficult for you tomorrow on the job is you are responsible for formation of groups, and you are responsible for developing those groups and also responsible for extracting work from those groups for the hospital effectiveness. That's going to be a much more tougher because it's not easy to get work done through or with a group of members. All are at different loggerheads that I'm going to show you today with lot of examples. We will see how each member performs a very funny role, and then if you are responsible for such groups, how are you going to deal with them? How do you extract work from them so that time is not wasted? So these are all challenges. We will address them as we move now. So what have we done yesterday? We had seen a model of group behavior. Let me just show that slide once again to you. A model of group behavior. Yeah. So from the book which I had talked about yesterday, this is a very interesting book. If you can find somewhere online, explore that, buy that, because it will be a wonderful book. It will be helpful to you for the future jobs. So from Boot Cowling and Stanford, I picked up this model which I briefly explained you yesterday, and then we started looking through the formation variables, particularly size, similarity, compatibility, personal characteristics, and personal goals. I can also refresh once again all of those. But today, what we will do, we'll see the nature, the second part of the formation variables called the nature of task. We'll see all of them, and then when both of these set interact, how the groups develop. They develop all of these, namely communication patterns, they develop role structures, they develop norms, they develop cohesiveness, and also they develop leadership. So when groups develop all these characteristics, they are ready for performance. That means the entire group is ready. If it's an individual putting his energy, you would call it individual's energy. But if the entire group of, let us say, 8 to 12 members or 30 members, when all of their energies are put together, we use a new word called synergy. So, synergy is the energy of the team members combined. And therefore, when they put their synergy, only developed groups can put synergy. Those groups will be effective groups. That means they can perform at their peak levels without any flaws. Absolutely perfect. It is like that music orchestra. If you had seen how every member in the music team, music orchestra, would play his or her own respective instruments flawlessly. And not only that, they have to coordinate with each other's instruments as their instruments are played. And then the vocalist coordinates with each of the instrument being played, and then sustain the rhythm, sustain the tempo, sustain the pitch, so that there is a melody at the end to the listener. So that's what we call effectiveness of a musical team or orchestra team. And then at the end, you would know the members, instrument, the players in the team are also satisfied, and then the audience is also satisfied who's listening to the music. And that's how the music orchestra gets paid at the end. So we don't have to talk here and that variable. So this is how we the model of working with the groups is identified. And now what we will do, I'll just briefly explain once again these refreshed, and then we will get slowly into this. And now once they are interacting, we will see elaborately each of them. So we will see starting with the communications and then roles. By the way, I had asked you to take that small test called team roles, how members in a team perform roles. Today, I will elaborate too much on that. Unfortunately, Belbin test is not freely available as I told you, but there is a free instrument available. Somebody kept it on Google Scholars. You could have downloaded, as I told yesterday, you could have downloaded and tested it offline. So I cannot demonstrate that because I don't have that facility to do that. But what you could do, you can download that. It is there in Google Scholars. Somebody kept a PDF file. It has a list of questions. If you simply answer those questions are categorized into 9 roles members in a group follow or perform. Those 9 roles would emerge very clearly. Then you would know where are you, how are you on each of those roles according to your own perception. And there is a second component of that. I'll elaborate that anyway as we talk about role structure. Observers, every group is being observed by an observer. He may be called a hospital manager, or he may be called a leader, or anybody else. Now how observer is identifying individuals roles. So there are two ways of looking at it. One is you perceive your role, and somebody else is also observing your role. So when both scores are put together, that's exactly the description of your role. We will talk about them slowly, gradually. So now let's get back to our description. We will quickly refresh on each of those points. So I'll close this slide. So we had seen yesterday what is called the definition of group, and very quick classification of friendship groups and formal groups, and then why people join the groups, then classification of group. This is very important for you. We had seen classification of groups. As I told you, in the hospital you'll have a lot of functional and cross functional groups. Of course, in an emergency you will have something called self managed groups. They don't have to wait for anybody. They will decide what is good for them. They will decide what is appropriate in a given situation to save lives. So they don't have to wait for anybody's decision. They don't have to wait for anybody's clearance. They will straight away go and even they will call experts from outside. For example, there is a need for what you say vascular surgeon, and there are very few vascular surgeons in our state. Hardly one, two, three I can count. I don't know. You can clarify. You can confirm. Maybe in Andhra you have hardly one or two people. So these people are so much in demand actually. So whenever there's an emergency, when this blood bleeding happens, these are the people who are called. So they'll take care of stopping the blood. Until they come, nobody can do anything. So this is how the whole healthcare is designed. Experts have to be invited. So self-managed teams can invite such experts, and they'll take care of the treatments. Sometimes you may, for example, uh, I have recently come across a gentleman suffering from uh, sacrum sarcoma. It's a cancer of a very rare portion, place in the body, human body, called sacrum. And then there are hardly one or two people only who are specialized in that area. So then I came to know that this rare cancer, one in thousand, or one in I don't know how it is described, but one in thousand would have such kind of problems. So now there is only one expert who has to be invited by the hospital if it is a cancer hospital. So self-management teams can make decisions like that because in an emergency they have to rescue or save the lives. So now what we will do, as we started with the model, now we'll straight get into the model. Skip all this, straight get into the model now, because this is what you have to professionally pick up and then start working over. So in the uh, yesterday's session we had seen formation variables, namely membership and situation. So we can even further refresh on membership and situation, because membership we have already seen, but situation has to be fresh identified. Now, formation variables are the way the group is composed and the context within which it operates in the workplace. So, what is the membership? For example, membership is one characteristic and then situation is another. Both together is called formation variables. Now, in formation variables, yesterday we had seen size, then then similarity or compatibility, then personal characteristics and personal goals. These are the four important formation variables, or sorry, which are called membership variables under formation category. And then on the situation variables, you find nature of task, physical environment, or physical environment is also called organizational setting. Somewhere you can write down in your notes, physical environment slash organizational setting. Then next one is organizational environment, and then finally relationship with other groups. So this is what we have to see from today onwards, and then refresh on something on this. Yesterday we had seen that group size and effectiveness. Which size would determine effectiveness, whether small groups or large groups? So we didn't have any concrete answer, because all of them, all classifications have their own advantages and disadvantages. Similarly, similarity is also an important variable, because homogeneity and heterogeneity. That's what. Similarity means homogeneity, opposite is heterogeneity. So groups which have homogeneous values, interests and attitudes can be very compatible groups, and groups which are heterogeneous are not. That's what we had seen. But again, we have seen that heterogeneity gives you a lot of diversity, because we are living in the times of diversity due to globalization. And then when in 90s, early 90s, when globalization was commissioned, started across the world, everybody started accepting, because the business is exchanged in the name of globalization. So money circulates across the world. Along with that, money laundering happened. Along with that, terror fund also circulated. Along with that, viruses also globalized. If we were not globalized today, we wouldn't have got this virus. So these are the side effects, or I would say ill effects of globalization. But what about the positive side of it? Globalization made billionaires. Globalization brought a lot of what you call materiality, material benefits. People had lot of materials from abroad, electronic gadgets, equipments, whatnot, food. culture, literature, lot of things came because of globalization. It has more bad side than the good side now. But all these years, for 25 years, we have seen a lot of good things of globalization. Now it is time to see the bad things of globalization. So, but unfortunately, we cannot go out of globalization because the world over, the nations have signed the agreement that they are open to globalization. India also is open to globalization. So, you cannot stop the flights, you cannot stop the business, you cannot reject the Chinese companies in this country. So, nevertheless, I am for a lot of diversity. In fact, yesterday I was discussing with Dr. Ramesh in the evening about today's class and so on. And then, since he is the coordinator, he has to be informed either by you or by me. So, indirectly, I have informed him, and then I also talked about this group subject, the topic that we had. In fact, what he said is that they were actually practicing, and then none of you reacted yesterday. You, in fact, are being part of diverse groups, and then the membership is rotated, the leadership is rotated in your, and you are part of multiple groups in the hospital. So that was one advantage. You have already seen the subject in reality experienced by you in your hospital. That's what he was raising that. I said, why don't you come and uh, give some more tips on that? He said he is willing to do that, but I don't know how. If he can call me, probably we can connect his call, and then so that he can interact with you. But Sunday is definitely a tough day for many of us, because that's one day where they want to relax or go around shopping and so on. So personal characteristics are like individual skills and abilities. Now should we decide on the membership based on certain individual skills and abilities, or should we encourage people to compromise on personal characteristics? First, join the group and explore your skills and abilities. So there are two ways always looking at each of them. Similarly, personal goals. Some people have their personal agenda, personal desires to fulfill in a group, but that is diametrically opposing to the goals of the group itself. Personal goals clash with group goals because personal goals have to be compromised for the sake of group goals. So, as a leader of the group or as a manager of the group, these all have to be taken care of while forming the groups. So, I think with that exposure, understanding of formation variables, now we will try to see what are called situational variables. We all know that groups do not exist on their own or in vacuum. They don't operate in vacuum. Every group functions in a situation or a context. The case in point in your example is you are all involved in hospital as a context. Hospital work is the situation. Therefore, hospital operations is the context or the situation. Hospital operations are likely to influence the development of the group. So, the task that in which the group members are involved, and then the setting, that's another important issue. A setting, organizational setting we are referring to. I'll elaborate each of them more clearly. Organizational setting is the rules and regulations. Then physical setting is the actual physical workplace, the traffic flow, the layout, the workplace layout, the arrangements, the facilities, the infrastructure. This is what we call physical layout. I would say sometimes in hospitals, people dump all those equipments which are dysfunctional or to be repaired here and there in the corridors, in which case the traffic flow is restricted. Or sometimes they'll bring all these equipments and dump them in one of the rooms in which actually some important activity is going on. Nobody objects, but these are all what I would refer to as physical settings, and they definitely disturb the group functioning. So similarly, relationship with other groups, I will come back to each of them and elaborate on that. Now the groups could be influenced by the relationship they have with other groups in the hospital. So one group's relationship with other groups could influence the first group's development or all those developmental aspects. So we will talk about that. How does it happen? For example, I told you yesterday in a company called Praga Tools, there the quality teams, or they are called quality circles. The members of those teams contest with each other, compete with each other. That's the relationship they had with other groups, because why only one group should always win? So on Republic Day or Independence Day, the managing director of the company would distribute the reward to the winning groups. So consistently, always there is only one group winning because they are extremely productive. Other groups struggling to catch up with them. So other members want to join that group which is regularly winning. This you will also experience everywhere. You always want to be part of the winning team. You always want to take the side of a winning team. That's exactly point. It's called relationship with other groups. So I think now we will gradually move into each of the situational variables. So let's start with the nature of task. So you can also note down some important points as I am talking about what is called the nature of task. Now, as you know that in any group, members have various tasks to perform. So even if you take one department, in a department, members have various tasks to perform. Somebody may be performing technical, somebody may be performing administrative, somebody may be performing just relationship oriented. There can be many classifications like that. So let's move on slowly as we go through. And interestingly, there was a study conducted back in 50s on shop floor groups, because in back 50s and 60s it is called quality circle movement across the world. So quality circle is also called a group actually, but they were popularly known by that name quality circles. They got originated in Japan. From there they went to what you call United States and rest of the world. Even in our country we have quality circles more in public sector undertaking, but now they have changed the name from quality circles to quality teams. So in one research study by a gentleman named Siles, Sayles, Siles. So he found that the nature of task and of course organizational setting also had a major influence on the level and quality of employee grievances. So therefore what happened? He had classified people, what you call four groups, four types of groups were there in the plant. So what he found that four types of groups which displayed behavior peculiarly over the time due to the tasks that they were performing. So sometimes the tasks are very what I would say difficult to task, sometimes they are very monotonous tasks. There can be various classifications of the tasks. So what he found is that because of the task, four types of groups were formed naturally on their own. And then from his research study, Silas found, I think this was in 1958. So you can somewhere note down and then subsequently can search on internet. Sayles, that's the name of the author. Sayles 1958. So he found that the nature of task performed by the groups, by the members, automatically got classified into four types of groups. Now I am giving you those names. The first one is called apathetic group. The second one is called erratic group. ERRATIC. The first one apathetic. 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 Second one is erratic. ERRATIC. The third one is strategic group and the last one is conservative group. So these were the four groups that emerged from this nature of task. So how, because the purpose of situational variables is to see how groups are formed. But I told you groups are formed as a result of membership variables and situational variables. Now situational variables, this is one situation I am talking about, nature of task, in which the members are involved and because of their task they form themselves into various groups. What is apathetic group? Anybody would know the meaning of this word apathetic? Apathy, A-P-A-T-H-A-Y, apathy, A-P-A-T-H-Y, apathy. Something which is not clear, something which is apathy means no feelings, no reactions, nothing, no direction, stoic. That's how you describe apathy. So apathetic groups lack clear or accepted leadership. So they don't have clear cut or accepted leadership, and then they also have a lot of friction, disunity among themselves, and they are engaged in little in solving their dissatisfaction. Nobody is paying attention to their dissatisfaction inside the group, and these guys are low paid, unskilled in nature. Each one performs a different job utilizing different equipment. That's why they're called apathetic groups. They are low paid, unskilled in nature, and they are performing different jobs utilizing different equipment and resources. The second group is called erratic groups, E-R-R-A-T-I-C. So what is this erratic group? Anybody would know the meaning of the word erratic? Erratic means not in order. So therefore, erratic groups are characterized by members performing identical or near identical tasks, same tasks, and they are highly centralized leadership. They have highly centralized leadership, and then they are easily inflamed. That means they unnecessarily get angered, and of course their anger also is hushed up very easily, and they are often highly active in the organizational aspects of their work. Where do you find these groups in a hospital? Anybody? If apathetic groups can be found among housekeeping staff, example, erratic groups can be found among who are those ambulance drivers or maintenance staff, these guys who are involved in electrical repairs, maintenance of those electrical equipment, power supply, these guys. And these guys are very active in any unions. You can see that these fellows, they can speak out very boldly. They have a lot of voice. We use a phrase called these guys can throw their weight around. In English, that's a very peculiar phrase. They can throw their weight around. That means they're extremely powerful fellows. People are afraid of them. But we have a third group called strategic groups. That's a third group because of the task involved. They form into a third group. And in strategic group, the members have high degree of internal unity. And they use continuous as well as well planned pressure tactics to fulfill their interests. We'll see who are they in the hospital. Strategic groups have high degree of internal unity, and they would use continuous as well as what you call well planned pressure tactics in furtherance of their interests or fulfilling their interests. And wherever you find these groups, in any department you can find, in almost every department you can find, these departments are always called trouble spots in a hospital. Now you can guess who are they. Wherever you find these groups, those groups are called trouble spots in a hospital. Anybody can put examples before I give? And the members of this group are the heart of the unions. Now you can guess who are these guys. Members of this group are the heart of the employees unions. I'll also give you further explanation about that. They are characterized by highly skilled operations. They are characterized by highly skilled operations. And in these operations, their individual judgment plays a large part. So whatever they say, people just follow. Who are they? Among the workers, who are they? These guys are called senior, very senior workers. You can identify who are they in a hospital. Very senior workers. And these guys are on the top of the promotion ladder. That means the first promotion, if it is announced, should be going to them because of their seniority. So with that, we go to the last group called conservative groups. Now, these groups are quite peculiar in nature because they are characterized by unique mobile skills. Mobile skills. Now, when I'm using the word mobile skills, these people's skills are needed in almost every hospital place. Every nook and corner of the hospital, these people's skills are needed. So I think you'll get a clue now. Who are they? These guys are distributed throughout the hospital. Anybody could get an idea? These guys are called maintenance guys, maintenance people. Conservative group is maintenance people. They are very mobile and they also enjoy high status because everybody gives them a phone call requesting them to come to the department to fix the equipments. And these guys are usually highly paid. And their relationship with management is always, and because of the nature of their job, nature of their task, their involvement in union activities is not particularly high. So I guess you got an idea now how the nature of task automatically makes groups out of the members. So now what we will do, we will slowly get into the next set of next variables, namely the physical setting. Now physical environment or physical setting is all situational variable. Situation means the context. Now what does it mean? Physical setting is the shop floor actually. Physical setting of a shop floor is very influential. For example, you can see the sitting arrangements in your classroom, anywhere for that matter. The sitting arrangements would influence the flow of communication. And not only that, because of that, the leadership emerges. That's why we will see the first development variable is called communication. So, what if our sitting arrangements are not convenient? We cannot talk to each other. We cannot have face to face contact with each other. That's why sitting arrangements are very important for a group to be formed and function. What if people are sitting opposite to each other? Can they interact with each other more frequently than people who are in perfect face to face contact? So, you know, these two extremes. So, that's what main thing is the layout. The workplace layout could be facilitating the communication or maybe disturbing the communication. And that's why you can see in the departments also how the staff would be, their chairs are arranged, their tables are arranged. They are arranged in such a way that communication flows very easily amongst them, between and among them. One need not twist his head back, and that is disturbing, very difficult to listen to. So therefore, physical environment has a great influence on the group formation and also group development. What about the organizational environment, which is also called organizational setting? Most of the companies, I think even hospitals, and we are talking more about hospitals anyway. So hospitals have very clear, we would say either implicit or explicit rules, very clear cut, or rules which are not very clearly, but they are rules actually. Now these rules govern our behaviors. For example, these rules are to do with where and how employees are expected to work, what procedures to be adopted, what methods to be adopted, and what channels of communication should be accepted, formal or informal channels in hospitals. So therefore, the organizational environment or organizational setting, which basically refers to rules, procedures, protocols, policies, paperwork, systems, this is called organizational environment. What if you are supposed to be part of a group which has to follow too many rules? You don't like to form that group, part of that group. What if there is a group which is very joyful for anybody to work with? Because there's not much rules in that group. People would like to go there. That's how what I would refer to as organizational environment. And now let's see the last one called relationship with other groups. So what do you mean by relationship with other groups? As I told you, groups compete with each other. That's the situation you're creating, a competitive situation. Especially when there is something called reward for the contributions of the group. I'm sure those groups are going to be extremely volatile and dynamic. Lot of energy bubbling with a lot of excitement. These groups will be competing with each other in order to get the reward. Not only that, there will be lot of secrecy. The groups, let us say there are 100 groups in a hospital. When you have reward system for the best group performance, all these 100 groups will be working very confidentially. They don't want to share anything to the outside of the group. Even if the groups interact, even if the members of these groups sometime during lunch hour or tea breaks they interact, they don't share anything with them. It's because of the intergroup competition. So therefore, because of the intergroup competition, the pressure towards performing, the pressure towards following the rules, the pressure towards achieving the goals is always very high. And that is the reason all the groups in a hospital will be highly organized, highly disciplined. But I'm telling you, it's very difficult to reward them. How do you reward them, especially in a hospital setting? There has to be so many parameters for evaluating the group performance and declaring the winner. So let's say you want to celebrate Independence Day and Republic Day, on which the director of the hospital would like to distribute the rewards to the best performing groups in a hospital. Not easy. In a manufacturing company, it's easy because the work is very tangible. So you can see wastage and then savings, the profitability, all that is very clear. Less time, more work, productivity, calculations are very easy. But in a hospital, the work is more tangible, so it's not that easy. So, best group announcements or best group awards is not that easy, but not impossible. Identification of the parameters for evaluation of group performance is what we need. So this is not the class to talk about all those, but what I mean is the relationship with other groups also can be the reason for members to be part of several groups in the hospital. That's the only point here. Some people would know that if they are part of certain groups, their personal needs also can be fulfilled. and that's the reason they prefer to join certain groups, because the work, the nature of task, the physical environment, and the work environment, working in certain groups is very conducive to them. It supports fulfilling their personal goals. That's all about situational variables. Now, what happens when these two variables, membership variables and situational variables, interact? The development happens. So, interaction is very important. Both variables have to be considered while forming the groups. As a hospital manager, you have to remember these characteristics: formation characteristics as well as situational characteristics, and then you move forward with the interaction. So as we see through the interaction, now it's time for us to see the development. I think this is the heart of the entire process, or the actual action. The actual action can be found here. So how the groups develop: communication, role, norms, cohesiveness, and leadership. That's it. These are the five important, what I would say, dimensions of development. We'll try to see each of them one by one. So let's start with the first one called communication. We would know what is called communication actually. It is called the transmission of information. Very simple meaning. The transmission of information between and among the members of a group. So that's the way you can write down somewhere in your notes. Communication is the extent of transmission of information between and among the members of a group. So we are talking about group communication here. So it has to be between the members and also among the members. But interestingly, in workplace, the groups communicate around two important issues. This is now we call microscopic communication or micro communication. You will not find these things in generally textbooks, because they talk about broad communication. But here what we need is micro communication, the communication that happens between two individuals or between a small group of individuals in a group. So therefore, this is a very, very important variable. And not only that, the the nature or quality of that interaction, we are using the word interaction now. The nature and quality of interaction is mutual communication, or communication which is both ways. Communication which is both ways is called interaction. So interaction between and among the members is most important, particularly if it is of high nature and high quality. So what are these two issues around which interactions revolve? The first one is called socio-emotional interactions. The first one is called socio-emotional interactions, which could be positive as well as negative. What does it mean? Socio means the members as a group, members as a group. Emotional means how they are relating to each other. How do they express their relationship to each other is called emotional. So therefore, their expression of emotions in a group could be positive as well as negative. So I'll give you a lot of examples on them anyway. For example, members can show solidarity with each other. You know what is called solidarity? Members in a group can show solidarity. Anybody would know what is called solidarity? Solidarity could be empathizing with people, showing unity, saying that I am with you. Don't worry about your work, I am with you. We will do it together. That's called solidarity. Expressing we feeling is called solidarity. So that's a communication actually, that's an interaction. And then of social emotional positive, I'm talking about positive ones. We'll also talk about negative ones after some time. So let's finish off with the positive ones first. So first thing is, as I told you, showing solidarity. The second one is protecting somebody's status or raising some other member's status. So when somebody's status is not known, the members would say that you are an important person, so we need you in our group. So they raise the status of the other members. Then the third positive interaction could be giving help. That's called social emotional interaction. Giving help to the others, and then rewarding, appreciating people, recognizing people. These are all social emotional. So you praise somebody, you recognize them. That's what we call rewarding them. That's what we call positive side. There are many more, of course, positive ones. For example, you can even say release of tension. When the group is under pressure, the member said, "Don't worry, we can do it." So the pressure is released. If some work is spoiled, you say that, "Don't worry, we can redo it, we can fix it." That's what we call releasing tension. Then cutting jokes to keep a good sense of humor among the members. You will find this everywhere in the workplace. We are only trying to put them in a frame now. Sometimes they cut jokes in order to release the tension. People laugh. So when people laugh, they're all united actually. And then they also show the sense of satisfaction for being in that group. Next point, they agree. So agreeing is called social emotional positive interaction. Agreeing with the members, accepting the members, or accepting the ideas of the members. Yeah, I'm with you. I accept your idea. I like your idea. These are all social emotional interactions on the positive side. Understanding happens. The members understand each other, and they say that I understand you well. Let's do it together. That's called social emotional interactions. And then let's comply with our group goals or group rules. That's called social emotional positive interactions. Now very quickly we'll see some negative ones. How there will be some negative interactions happening among members in a group. But we know that these negative interactions pull the group's communication to the low, and as a result understanding fades away. What are they? Point number one, socio-emotional negative interactions, and now I am talking about number one, members disagree with each other. Number two, they show passive rejection of others' ideas. Number three, being too formal, with the members. Number four, withholding help, even though members are able, some of them may not help the other members. Always show tension. Other members always ask for help, but nobody is there to help them. Some people withdraw from the group. To hell with you, I'm going home. We'll see tomorrow. That's because of the frustration. Then some would show what is called antagonism. How many of you know what is the name, full form of it? What is the meaning of it? Antagonism. Antagonism. That means antagonism means hate. Showing hatred is called antagonism. Others deflate the status of the members. Speaking bad about them, speaking, don't you know this, how to do? Who taught you these things? This is the way you are reducing their status. And the other members defend themselves, assert self more than the group itself. That's called asserting, self assertion. That means self is more identified. So these are the negative side of the socio-emotional. So we have seen what are positive and the negative socio-emotional interactions. Now we will see how communication happens on the task front, and then we call it task related interactions. They are also of two types. You could see there. The first type is called task attempted interaction or task attempted questions. The next one is task attempted answers. So that's the way you have to write down. Two types of interactions: task attempted interaction, task answered interaction. I think that's the way you can write down. So let us start with the first one. How members raise task attempted questions. For example, some members would ask for orientation about work. What kind of work? How to do? That's called orientation. Asks for orientation about the job. Others ask for information. Some people ask for repeated information. Some people ask for confirmation. So these are all questions raised. Some people ask for opinions. Some people ask for evaluation of the work. Some people ask for analyzing the problems. Some people ask for some expression of feelings. Say something about the work. That's what we call expression of feeling. Some members ask for suggestions. Some members ask for direction. Of course, some members ask for possible ways of action. So all these put together is called task related questions or task attempted questions. What about the answers? Task attempted answers. List. Now I am going to give the list. Number one. Some members give suggestions. Some members give directions. Some members provide freedom to others. Some members give opinions. Some members evaluate, help the other members. Some members help in analysis. Some members express feelings of appreciation. Some members give orientation. Some would give information. Some repeats information. Some gives clarification, and some members would confirm with the group progress. So now we see that how much elaborately the task attempted questions and task related answers. So this is what we call micro communication. So I understand now how communication happens. It happens around social emotional interactions, and it also happens around task related interactions. Task related means only work related, the job related. Social emotional is all about personal, their behavior and so on. So now we will slowly move into another complex. This is how groups develop their communication abilities. Since communication is the healer of all problems, the groups must be encouraged to communicate well on these two issues, namely socio-emotional and task-related interactions. So now is time for us to understand the roles. Before I proceed with it, I want to check up with you whether you had done that test which I had asked you to do yesterday. I'm trying to show you where is that slide. Yesterday I had given you that source, right? Yeah. Could you do this test? Team roles test. I guess all of you have done it. So there are about 36 items. If you had answered those 36 items with subsequent information, so 36 plus 4, 40 questions. Had you pressed next after entering all those 40 questions, you would have got your report on your team roles. As a member, you are going to be part of a team anyway. So it describes your role personality actually. Could anybody react on that? Have you taken this test? If so, have you got a good score? Or does it describe in which roles would you be comfortable in a team? It's because this test will also help you tomorrow on the job to do and identify the roles the members would be comfortable. Your own subordinates, part of the teams, could be comfortable with their roles. There are various types of roles. I'm going to show you once again. Once this information is clear. So I want to cross check with all of you whether you have taken this test called Teams Roles Test. If you had done it, fine. So I think with that we go back to our PowerPoint slide. Now from here what we can do is we can see that groups develop three types of roles for their members. So even if there are 8 members, even if there are 12 members or 30 members or 50 members, the members will develop all these three types of roles. We will go by one as we move further. We'll have lot of what you call examples to deal with each of them. So what actually do we mean by role structure? When we are using the word role structure, did we use that? Yeah, we didn't use it, but it's called, we can mention that here, role structure. So what do you mean by that? Role is a set of behaviors that a member manifests while performing a job. So therefore, for example, you are performing a role of a mother. You have so many tasks, so many sets of behaviors that you manifest. Similarly, role of a father, role of a child, role of a son, role of a daughter. We have so many roles to play in life as we grow older. But in the workplace, we have much more roles to play. All you have to do is you have to identify how many roles are there and in which role will you be comfortable, in which role you will not be comfortable. So therefore, how to develop that comfortability. We are supposed to perform all the roles in this world. Then only you are called a perfect person after some time. If you had failed in all the roles, that means you are imperfect. So similarly, in a work group, you have three types of roles to perform. Number one, task related roles. So all roles revolving around the job or the task that you're doing. Then the second one is called maintenance related roles, which means as a member, how do you help the group maintain its stability, its existence, so that the group lives and survives? That's called maintenance roles. How to support the group, how to encourage the group. We will use all those, we'll identify each role anyway, methodically. Then you can also identify, will you fit that role? Unfortunately, I don't have a test, otherwise I would have asked you to take this test. But the test that you had already taken, you'd have got a description about who you are and how comfortable are you in the roles. I have also taken the test. So if you had not taken yesterday, I think you can finish it today because tomorrow we are going to start with a fresh topic depending on the time availability. So what I'll do now, before we go deep into the roles, I'll give you 5 minutes break. So if you want to have some snack or if you want to have some coffee, tea or anything, just have a handhold of it, come back and then 1 5. What is the time now? Anybody would explore? It is 12:55. So sharp 1 o'clock we'll start. So go ahead and then have your uh, some eats you can have, some snacks you can have, and then come back with excitement. So I'll pause here. Even I would like to have some water. So let's pause for a while here. Pause this now for 5 minutes. ఇది ఏమంత బాగాలేదు ఎందుకు పచ్చిగా ఉంది నూనె పచ్చిగా ఉంది మ్హూ. వేడి చేయలే. ఎక్కడిది పల్లి నూనె మన దగ్గర ఎప్పుడో అయిపోయింది కదా అచ్చా. ఈరోజు సీనియర్స్కి లేదు 2 o'clock తర్వాత ఫ్రీ వచ్చింది ఫిక్స్ చేసేస్తే అయిపోతుంది ఇది ఫిక్స్ చేస్తా, వాటర్ ట్యాప్ పైన ఫిక్స్ చేసి తిరొచ్చు. ఉన్నప్పుడు వాడుకోవచ్చు కదా. అప్పుడు ఫిక్స్ చేయలేదు ఆ రోజుల్లో టైం లేక, ఇప్పుడు టైం ఉంది కదా. షీట్కి ఇది ప్లాస్టిక్ షీట్, ఇక్కడ ఒక వైర్ పెట్టి అలా పెట్టేయాల. నీళ్ళు దీని దగ్గర అలారం స్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది. ఆల్రెడీ స్టార్ట్ చేసినావా? ఇస్తావా? Friends, welcome back. I hope you had some snacks to get energized. So we are continuing with this session now. So what we will do now, we will try to identify what are those roles that members perform. So there are various theories actually. In fact, at least two or three theories are there. According to each of this theory, there are distinct roles. Some are uniform. Some similarities you might find across these roles. But what you could do is you just find out two or three important theories that I'm going to show you, and then do some personal reading. But since I'm showing you from Booth, Cowling, and Stanworth, their theory I'm trying to explain. But there are two more theories. I would just give you some overview of it, but I want you to read on your own because we don't need them much in hospital context. Of course, one theory may be more useful for self-directed teams or self-regulated teams, one theory, but whatever I'm explaining you now, these are the roles identified by Booth, Cowling, and Stanworth. So therefore, what do we mean by role structure? That's what we had stopped, and then we didn't answer that question before the break. So what do we mean by role structure? In a position in the group, every member displays a typical behavior which may be threatening to the group, or which may also be protecting the group or supporting the group. When we display our behaviors, they may be a combination of our personalities and abilities. So, and how do we do that? We do that in various roles. Now we are going to identify them. Now this time I am trying to pick up a theory suggested by Booth and Cowling, Booth and others. This theory is developed by two professors named Benny and Sheets. I would spell the names Benny, Benny, and Sheets, Sheats, Benny and Sheets. Quite long ago, 70 years ago, they suggested that the group roles are classified into three types, namely task related roles, maintenance related roles, and self oriented roles. So, three types of roles. I guess I have elaborated them. So, now we will see what are they. The list is so exhaustive here. These are the roles every member is expected to perform, but generally what happens, we don't perform all these roles. For example, one of you may be initiating, it's called initiator role, idea initiator role, or you may be information giver or seeker, and then information provider, problem clarifier, summarizer, and then consensus tester. These are the names of the roles. So you would know individually, even among your own group members, who is performing these roles in any normal group situation. For example, initiator is an important role. This person, whoever is initiating this role, would always suggest new ideas or the ways of doing. That's what we call plan. Ways of doing. Suggest new ideas or changes and the ways of doing things. That's what idea initiator is. Whereas information seeker is always seeking information. So you would find one member in the group is always seeking information. Then he is also seeking clarifications. He is again checking back and expecting others to share information. So this guy is always a seeker. And there is another member in the group who is always information provider. He will always share ideas. What's happening in the hospital, in every nook and corner, who is who in the hospital, this man will know. Who's who in the hospital. And then he shares, he forwards and proposes various alternative ideas. Any problem solving, this gentleman will give lot of information, lot of solutions. That's what we call alternative ideas. And then problem clarifier, there is somebody who always gives better explanation. Cause and effect explanations are given by somebody in a group. He is called problem clarifier. So this gentleman clarifies doubts, defines clearly the problems, interprets various ideas, which idea works, which idea doesn't work, that's called interpretation, and he brings all people onto the track. So when all the group members are at loggerheads, this gentleman clarifies all the problem and coordinates with them. So you can find one of the members in the group is like this, like problem clarifier, and you will always find another member having something called summarizing. So therefore he is called a summarizer. He or she will pull all ideas together from each other, offers conclusions. So after listening to all the members of the group, this gentleman would know how to summarize the whole group's discussion and brings the entire group to the focus on the problem. This is a very beautiful role actually. Now, there is somebody called consensus tester. Would anybody know what is this role? Consensus tester. So he is trying to mobilize uniform understanding among others, asking questions whether all are agreeing or not. Are we on the same line? This is the standard way of raising questions. Are we doing it together? This is what we call consensus tester. So he's always testing whether all members are coming to some common understanding or not. So these are the 6 important roles members perform. Now what you can do, since we don't have standard online instruments to test these roles, you just do one thing. You list each of these roles on a piece of paper in your notes, and then corresponding to them put a 5-point scale. Always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. Always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. So always 5 points, never 1 point, often 4 points, sometimes 3 points, rarely 2 points, never 1 point. So give 5 points distributed across the answers. For example, are you idea initiator? Always. If you are always giving ideas, you give 5 points. Rarely means give 2 points. You never give ideas, give 1 point. Sometimes you give 3 points. So always, often, rarely, never. So for each of these roles, you put a scale like that. I hope the message is clear. So therefore, just find out what are the task, what I would say, the task attempted, right? Task related roles, sorry. So what are the task related roles that you very frequently perform in your groups? That's the way you will know that. Now we'll go to the maintenance roles. These are very important roles actually. I hope you are noting down those roles. First note down, then we will see the friends. I'm sorry about that. I forgot to put on the mic. So let's get back to the roles. I'm very sorry about that. Yeah. So the microphone was not switched on. I'm sorry. So members perform various roles in a group. Members perform various roles in a group. And there are at least three theories I'm going to show you. Theory number one, Booth, Cowling and Stanworth, their theory from 1977. And there is one more theory much older than Booth and Cowling's, that is in 50s. I'm going to show you, but not elaborate too much on that. Then the third theory is called Belbin's roles. So three theories. Because as a student of management, you must know more about the theories, because once you knew the theories, it becomes easy for you to connect things. It's like, sorting out all the pieces of the puzzle. So therefore, uh, what we will do now very quickly, because I'm sorry once again that microphone was not switched on. Very quickly we'll see now what is it called role structure. First of all, role structure refers to a set of roles individuals play in a given group, and such roles are influenced by number of things in his position. What are those things? Number of things. Number one, his status in the group, and his communication in the group, and his behavior, his personality, his abilities. All of these would influence his roles. So therefore, Booth and others, there are three authors actually, so I'll always say Booth and others. Booth and others in 1977 identified three types of roles members perform. One is called task related roles, second one is called maintenance related roles, third one is called self oriented roles. Now what are task related, what are maintenance, what are self oriented? Task related roles are to do with various types of tasks members are comfortable with. Some are performing some tasks, some don't. That's what we call task related roles. You can also cross check from the next slide. How are you performing those roles? The second one is called maintenance related roles. Maintenance related roles. So what does it mean? The group members might be drifting. There may be disturbances in the group. Some members may not be moving forward. The group may not be moving forward because of some disturbances, misunderstandings, hatred, enmity, anxiety. Some are angry with each other, some hate each other because of their behaviors. So there is a need for maintenance related roles. That means some members will try to see that the group is not breaking away. So without maintenance roles, the group will be, it will just disappear, it will extinct. Members will say, to hell with you, I am not going to be a part of this group. They will disappear. So to avoid that, some members perform certain roles in order to retain the relationship, so that the group further develops. So that's why maintenance related roles are always important for hospital management students. And then finally, self oriented roles. You'll always see there's nothing called, your individuality is hushed up in a group, but many times they just come out. We all are called creatures of recognition. We always want to be identified. We always want to be recognized in the groups, and that's why we have certain self-oriented roles. So I think now very quickly I'll rush because of the time we have already lost. Something like 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes we have lost without the microphone. So now very quickly what we will do, I'll explain you what are called the task related roles. So there are about six roles you can see: idea initiator, information seeker, information provider, problem clarifier, summarizer, consensus tester. These are the six roles relating to the tasks. So one member can be an idea initiator, another member can be information seeker, one more could be information provider, another could be problem clarifier, summarizer could be one, and consensus could be other. Consensus tester. I'll explain each other very quickly. But what I'm trying to say, there's a word of caution. One member can follow a combination of this. Some members can follow only few of these. One member could always be only having one role. Another member could be having only another role like this. Or somebody could be a combination of this. Somebody could be having all these roles in different times. Someday I may be an idea initiator. Some other day I may be a consensus tester. But how frequently I am an idea initiator? That is actually my role. I may be performing other roles also, but my emphasis, my frequency is more on this because I always give ideas. So idea initiator, what does it do? You can see very quickly, the idea initiator would always suggest new ideas. So somewhere you can write down those points. The idea initiator would always give some new suggestions or changes and also explains the way of doing things. So he will always suggest solutions, he'll identify the problem, he will set the goals, he will plan. Always a wonderful idea. So in this role, a person will always be generating ideas. Whereas in second role called information seeking, a member in the group will always seek, always everybody tell me, I want some more, why don't you tell me? So anybody who does this kind of questioning, he is an information seeker. And there is another individual who is called information provider, who always shares information with the members of the groups. He always proposes very alternative solutions. If something doesn't work, what is the next idea? So you will find this gentleman. And then there is somebody who is always clarifying the doubts. If anybody has a doubt, is ready to clarify. You will find these members, these roles, even in your own class group. Somebody will always interpret ideas. And then if the group is drifting, he will always bring them on the track. This gentleman is called problem clarifier. Why do we fight with each other? Our purpose is not to fight with each other. Our purpose is to fight the problem. So such kind of descriptions he will give to bring them onto the track and coordinate with them. And then there is always somebody who is always collecting everybody's ideas and giving conclusions. He is called summarizer. And he is bringing everybody to common focus. So what he says, I guess now all of you gave different ideas. What is emerging from these ideas is some common understanding. That is the way he will address the group. And then he brings all the group to focus on a problem. And then finally, consensus tester. Now, this gentleman is always asking questions whether all group members are agreeing or not. Are we agreeing to go for a party? Are we agreeing to go to Hotel Paradise, or are we agreeing to go to somebody? This is what we call consensus tester. So in any group you will find this gentleman. So what I mean is, one of you may be only idea generator, one of you could be only information seeker, or some of you could be doing this, some of you could be doing any one of this. But we may also do all of them, but we don't do all of them always. That is the key. So what you do now, since you don't have an online testing, what you do, just mention all these 6 on a piece of paper, and on the right top mention a scale called always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. 5 points you put. So now always is 5, often is 4, sometimes is 3, rarely is 2, never is 1. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now if you are idea initiator, are you always give 5 points? If not, see, never means 1. Similarly, are you information seeker? Always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. Information provider. Are you always information provider? Sometimes, rarely, never. Are you problem clarifier? Always, sometimes, rarely, never. Are you summarizer? Always, sometimes, rarely, never. Are you consensus tester? Always, sometimes, rarely, never. So when you put like this, you would know whether which of these roles you are very frequently performing, which of them you are rarely performing. That exercise you should do, then only you would know who you are and how you perceive your roles. So with that, we'll go to the maintenance roles. These are very important, because when the group is drifting, when there is a lot of disharmony in the group, people are all fighting with each other, shouting with each other, and then the group will disappear slowly. It will fade away, people will break away To avoid that, these roles are very important. So any group you will find these people having 5 roles, namely harmonizer, who always reconciles, that means brings people to common understanding, reduces and resolves the conflicts. Gatekeeper, this gentleman encourages others to speak. If somebody is not speaking, he will always say, hey, come on, you should speak in the group. That's what he is called, gatekeeper. Next one is called supporter. Who is a supporter? Someone who always gives friendliness. He always exudes it is called warmth. MTH. This person exudes warmth and friendliness to all. He's a supporter of the group. So all group members would like to stay back because of the. And there is another person called compromiser. This person always resolves conflicts in the groups, and the group continues to move forward. And then finally, this one is called standards monitor. He's a monitor. So this gentleman will always monitor, which means he will always set certain standards of quality of process in the group so that people will always stick to those standards. So this gentleman will see that nobody deviates in the group. That's the beauty of this role. So what you do now, same exercise, list them out on a sheet, put always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. So are you harmonizer always, gatekeeper, supporter, compromiser, standards monitor in a group? So these are the 5 maintenance roles members can perform. As I told you, you will be dominant in any one of them, but does not necessarily mean that you are not using other roles. You are performing other roles also, but not frequently. So whichever is high, whichever is given 5 points, that is the most frequently performing role under this category called maintenance. Now with that, we go to the last set of roles called self-oriented roles. You will always find this in individual's identity is a concern in any group, because group is our identity, group is the individuality, but members in the group, their identities are gone. That's the weakness of any group. In any group, individual's identity is hushed up. You are not known by the group. I'm sorry, you are not known by your name. You're always known by the group identity. So therefore, there are about 6 roles, self-oriented roles members perform. You might check up again, do the same exercise as I told you. For aggressor, always, often, rarely, never. Always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. Blocker, always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. Recognition seeker, always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. Dominator, always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. Avoiders, always, often, sometimes, rarely. Likewise, even for interest pleaders, put always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. Now, you would know which self-oriented role you are very frequently performing. So, once you do this exercise, you would know on task roles, maintenance oriented roles, self-oriented roles. As an individual, how are you? How do you perceive yourself? So let me understand or explain each of them. First point, aggressor. Who is this aggressor? Someone who always antagonizes others. That means he always reduces the value of others and becomes enemy. He deflates others by expressing disapproval of their ideas, opinions, or feelings, or by attacking the whole group, the entire group. He attacks or she attacks, and such person is called aggressor because of his self identity. Now second one is called blocker, which means someone who is resisting. Blocker is a very negative and stubborn resistant. He keeps on returning to the same issues that the group has already rejected. You will find that after rejecting an idea, when the group is moving forward with some other issues, this blocker always pulls the group back to the same old idea which was rejected. And that's the reason a lot of time is wasted by the blockers. He doesn't want to accept anything else except that idea, rejected idea. The next one is called recognition seeker. The in the parenthesis I have explained who are they. These guys want praise, self praise. Somebody should always identify them, and as a result, the group identity is being affected because somebody who's saying I must be recognized. You have to listen to me. My ideas must be accepted. That's what we call recognition seekers. Now, the next one is called dominators. By the very word dominators, their views are highly dominant. They counter others' views. They counter others' views. So, in fact, maybe because of their voice, maybe because of their communication confidence, maybe because they can speak well, maybe because they have so much of powerful background, they dominate their views, uh, countering the others. Avoiders, some members could be avoiding, they are called avoiders. So what do you mean by avoiders? Some members would always try to hush up the ideas, duck the ideas. That means they dump some of the issues, they don't want to discuss. When a problem is identified, they say, come on, let us forget about that problem, let's not talk about that problem. So he's an avoider. You will find such member in a group, further any of these members. And then finally, interest pleaders. Who is interest pleaders? These are the people who always voice for others. If others' opinions are really worth, they represent their voices, they represent their ideas, and then they try to say, why don't you listen to that gentleman? He has a wonderful idea. That's what we call interest pleaders. So this is how we identify the self-oriented roles. So my advice to all of you is that finish off this exercise today itself. Then you will know how frequently you are performing task-oriented roles, maintenance-oriented roles, and self-oriented roles. So with that, you would know where are you, how are you on the roles. Now it's a point. There is so much on the other roles. Now you can see there is one study called Seven Team Roles of Budzog. You can simply type seven team roles of Budzog's successful self-managed teams. It's a very old one, probably from 50s. Very interesting theory. Seven team roles of Budzorgs. So I'm not going to explain you much about that. I think I have them, but no. Sorry. So even we don't have any test on the seven team roles. Boot and Cowling suggested three roles we have identified, but Budzorg's seven team roles is also a very interesting study. So I want you to read on your own. Go to Google, type seven team roles of Budzorg's successful self-managed teams. This is for self-managed groups only, and that's the reason I am not emphasizing more on this. But actually, Meredith Belbin, he's an Australian actually, an Australian professor, developed another test called Belbin's team roles. There are 9 team roles. I'm not going to elaborate more on these roles also because this is not part of your syllabus. But what I mean is, for a hospital management student, there is nothing called out of syllabus. Everything has to be part of syllabus. Only the difference is it's not easy, it's not feasible to cover every topic in the classroom. In 2 years, how many things can be covered? That's impossible. So what you should do is you go outside of the classroom, go to libraries, go online, search for information like this. We will provide you with more information like this, and then your job is to explore the possibilities. As a result, as a faculty member, my role is only to facilitate. Your role is to learn. because it's not possible for me to force learning on anybody in this world. I can only show the ideas, but your job is to find out all that information which you will never find in any one textbook. So my job is to cull all this information from various sources, put them together in a slide and shoot it to you so that you are at least aware of these things. And then real time you have to finish off. That's what as a student I learned. If my professor would have told me what is called 7 team roles of Buzzards, immediately by that evening I would have made notes also, written notes. Those days we didn't have computers, so I would immediately go to library, find out which book has this, then quickly note down those points. That's it. My day is complete with that. What if I postpone? Human tendency is to postpone. Finish. I'll never get that point again. Tomorrow, as a new topic, team roles is gone forever in my life. So as it is presented to me, I'll catch it and utilize that. So that's what 7 team roles of Buzzards you can search on your own, and then followed by Meredith Belbin's 9 team roles. I didn't find any test. If anybody had found free test on this, please let me know the link. I would like to test myself. There are 9 roles Belbin suggested. So I will just cursorily I will show you all these roles. This I am not going to show anyway. So you can try quickly this, and then very simply overview I will show you, and then we will come to the end of the roles. So what are the roles developed by Belbin? He defined role as a tendency to behave, contribute and interrelate with others in a particular way. So it's a tendency. Role is a tendency for him to behave, contribute and interrelate with others in a particular way in a group. So there are 3 types of roles he had identified, and each 3 has specific names for them. So the first one is called 3 action-oriented roles, second one is called 3 people-oriented roles, and the next one is called 3 cerebral roles. You have to understand what is called cerebral. Cerebral means understanding it, which is happening on your mind actually, like thinking, reasoning, cognition. Cerebral means cognitive, something to do with logic, something to do with systematic, and then something to do with cautious accountability. That's called cerebral. So 3 types of roles he talked about. So action oriented roles are called shaper, implementer, completer, finisher. 3 roles. People oriented, coordinator, team worker, resource investigator. And then cerebral roles, plant, that's called plant role, monitor evaluator role and specialist role. So now if you look through, this is the way it is classified. So you can start from here: plant role, specialist role, monitor role. That's a 3 set which are called cerebral. And then resource investigator, team worker, coordinator. These green colored ones are people oriented roles. And then what about the action orientation? This is called action. You can see the symbols here: shaper, completer, finisher and implementer. These are all called action oriented roles. So Belbin developed these roles so methodically, though it is a controversial, they have some limitations. Let's not worry about that. But what my advice is, you can just read on your own of who are these people, what are these roles actually. 9 roles. Belbin's 9 roles. I don't want to elaborate more on that, but sorry. If you have any free source, because some students might be able to find out any source which is free, you can say Belbin's team roles free test. Type it out in Google. If you come across, probably you will be able to examine yourself on each of these roles. But what Belbin suggested is that you may be perceiving these roles, but how about others perceiving them? So that's why what you do, uh, These 9 roles can be listed on a piece of paper. Then second column you say my perception. Always, often, sometimes, rarely, ever. Third column is ask others to give feedback on these 9 roles. You ask others, your friends or anybody, to comment on your roles on this. Can you be a resource investigator? If you might have given always, but ask others to give you rating on a 5-point scale. So that gentleman might have given you only 3. So the difference is 5 minus 3. But what if you also give 5, others also give 5 for you on this? Which means that is the actual role you are performing in your workplace. So that's why Belbin steamrolls is a very interesting diagnosis. And now the most easiest way of understanding the group roles is, you can see here, this is a group and each this can be an individual. So you can see these are the roles members have. Somebody performs always a star role. So star is always here and you can see these arrows. This is a very easy theory. We don't use this much, but it is only for easy understanding of what are your roles. Somebody is performing a star role and therefore it is called the choices in the sociogram. You can see these arrows pointing towards this particular individual, but from this individual except one arrow, it's not going to others. That's why they are called stars. Everybody is attracted towards this person, but he is not showing his attraction to anybody except one, this arrow. Okay, next one is called, sorry, click. Next one is called click. Anybody would know what is called a click? You're hearing it for the first time? A clique is the smallest group inside a group. A clique is a very highly cohesive smallest group. Even in the classrooms you will find. Out of, let us say, 20 students, you will find, let us say, 4 or 5 cliques. A clique is the smallest group inside a group. So group inside a group is called a clique. The only difference is cliques would have at least 2 members or 3 members, cannot be more than that. So you can see here only 2 members. Very close, very closely knit. That's why it's called clique. Now there is another one called mutual role. So you'll find 2 individuals, they are only exchanging information. They only talk in a group. Occasionally they just say hello to other members, but they generally talk with each other. That's why it's called mutual role. This is not a good role anyway, but what I'm trying to say, these are all the possibility roles. Now this gentleman is called a rejected man. Nobody talks to him. He is only talking to at least 2 people. He doesn't talk to anybody. He is a rejected one. And then you have one more person called the isolate. Sorry, isolate. So what does it mean? This gentleman or a woman doesn't participate in the group at all. He is just silent spectator. So that's how we uh, list out. I think it is a heavy dose, I suppose, for all of you, but I'm sure you're slowly digesting. But my advice is focus more on this. Try to explore more on Belbin steamrolls. I think if you go to belbin.com, they are charging something, I'm not sure, maybe 27 pounds for the test. 27 pounds is very costly for you as a student. 27, how much is the pound conversion today? Pound conversion is something like 100 plus rupees, I think, 100, 125 rupees. So 27 pounds is a huge money, and I personally don't advise unless you're earning, unless somebody is giving you the gift of that money. But what my advice to you is that you develop, as I gave you the clue how to test yourself on these roles, list out all these roles on a paper, serially 9 of them, then say self and others. Under self, give 5-point scale, always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. And on the others, always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. So you finish off answering all of them, then ask others to answer all of them. Then you see the difference between your perception and others. That's how you would know which role are you frequently performing comfortably. Not only that, if you're taking that commercial test online, they will give you combinations of these roles. Pairs, they call it pairs. Which pair is frequently performed in you among all these 9 roles? That's very interesting actually. If we can explore that, that's a more possibility. So I think for today, we will only confine ourselves to this topic called development of roles. And then next class, we will try to see development of norms, development of cohesion, development of leadership. I think that's it. Those are the things left out. So today we had seen development of communication, development of roles. Let's review very quickly. Communication is of two types: social, emotional, positive and negative. Then task related interactions are of two types: task attempted questions and task related questions. And then roles, Boot and others suggest that there are three types of roles members perform: task related roles, maintenance related roles, and self oriented roles. But I have suggested you that you better read this, these two theories: 7 team roles and Meredith Belbin's 9 team roles. This is additional learning. And then tomorrow on the job, if your boss would ask you, why don't you do this test for all your employees? Then you are not ignorant of it. You are at least familiar with these names. Then you have to go to belbin.com, ask them to send the quotation, how much it would be charged per employee, and then pay the money, get it done. So that's how Belbin steamrolls is going to be useful. What happens if you do these tests on your employees? You can know how these employees can be paired or part of a group, how they can be joined as part of the group. And not only that, this helps you to diagnose the roles of the group members, why certain groups are very highly successful and why some are not highly successful. It's because of the roles. Some people says, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. Some people says, if under conditions I will do this. So to overcome all these limitations, you have to run this test to give a personality profile of a members roles, role profiles, otherwise I can call role profiles of group members. With that, it would help you to have a much better understanding of the members and then develop the teams. Otherwise, without this knowledge, it's very difficult to develop the teams, and that's your major responsibility. Since that's your major responsibility for tomorrow as a hospital manager, making dynamic teams. And I would put you tomorrow, actually tomorrow I'll very quickly conclude this topic. Tomorrow we are not going to spend more on groups because we'll start with a new topic, but we have to conclude it at any cost. I thought today we would do it, but I don't think we should run faster. It's heavy otherwise. I can understand you. So what we will do is we will discontinue the class. In case if you have any doubts, any clarifications, you have anything to say, why don't you put them in the chat box? Do you have anything else to say? So, so that's it for today. And then, if you want to share your team roles test scores from yesterday's test, you can send me an email. My email should be there with all of you. I'll also type it out. My mail is, that's my email ID. If you want to share your what I would say, the team roles profiles, send it to me so that I would know how your team roles are. I'll also analyze them. So if you still have anything else to share with me, you can talk to me. You can send an SMS. Otherwise, you can also put your views on the live chat. Otherwise, we will discontinue the topic for today. That's okay, Mamata. So we will discontinue that topic today. So that's it. So have a nice time and then enjoy this day. Eat well, sleep well, and then of course work well. Until then, I wish you all the best. Good day.